Hi, this is Monica and welcome back to my channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. And today I'm going to be telling y'all a story that Tiffany requested about Willie divorce and June. And yeah, I'm using like my M. Reezy palette and stuff like this. So, honey, listen. Like, comment, and subscribe. And let's get to this story. I just come on here and I just start. So I'm going to start by saying, Tiffany, Tiffany in my comments. Honey, I'm getting ready to tell y'all the story about my dad's best friend, Willie divorce, and my mom's best friend, June. Now, before we get started, like, comment, and subscribe, and welcome back to this channel. Now, as you can see, today is a makeup day. Now, I could have did the brows a little better, but, this is going to have to work for right now because we're not moving like that today. We're not moving. This is my first makeup tutorial in 2022, and listen. We're going to have us a drink. We're going to sit back and we're going to relax and we're going to tell the story. Because at the end of the day, I am Monica Makeup, Beauty, and Stories. So welcome back to my channel and let's get to this beauty. Everybody else is the way that I am. But I am very, very, very particular about my makeup. And by me being particular about my makeup, I always notice flaws. And I'm going to show y'all one that y'all didn't see. You see how straight that eyebrow is up under here? It could be straighter. I'm getting ready to straighten it out. And this one could be straighter. I'm going to straighten it out because this got like a little round in it. But nevertheless, the eyebrows came out really great. Now, my mom and my dad has been married like over 50-something years now. My dad did pass. But nevertheless, my mom has a best friend named June. June is like sassy. June is light-skinned and she tall. She always wore a red afro wig from the time that I knew who she was to the time that I knew that she passed. But at the end of the day, June was that sauce. June was that friend that my mom would call and listen, they wrecking stuff up. But if you've been listening to the stories on my channel, then you know how June is. If you don't believe how June is, honey, go check out the X-Lax, the chocolate X-Lax cake that they gave to the people in church. Now listen, back to this story. Now my dad has a friend, his name is Willie Divorce. Willie Divorce is the kind of man, he's short. He was short and he was like kind of thin, but he was like always trying to prove a point. Always had something to say. Always had a strong opinion about whatever didn't have anything to do with him. This is the reason why June didn't like him. When I say him and June didn't like each other, him and June could not even be in the same room for 22 seconds or less and without the fight going on. But nevertheless, this is my dad's best friend. Now, the reason why June didn't like him was because he used to put his hands on his wife. And every time he put his hands on his wife, he felt the need to always brag about it. Remember, I told y'all, Willie Divorce is short. He is a short little man. He always has something to prove. But June, she was always tall. But she had something to prove also. She wasn't putting up with his crap or my dad's crap, especially when it came to my mom. Now, this is what we're going to do. I have this CoverGirl True Blend Undercover Concealer. And it's in this color. I don't know what color it is. Y'all know how I am about the colors and telling the degrees and stuff like this. But this is the Milani Concealer. And this Milani Concealer is in Cool Toffee. Now, I'm going to put a little bit of each on my hand. And I'm going to clean this up. And then I'm going to come right back. And we're going to get into why I had to correct these brows and Willie Divorce in June. When this particular story started, Willie was sitting on the porch with my dad. And he was telling my dad about how he had jumped on his wife. And that she would not be coming to the get-together that my mom and dad was having. Now, this was in the mid-70s. I had to be like maybe about 6 or 7. No older than that. But yet it's still, this is what he was talking to my dad about. Now, keep in mind, he had no idea that June was in the house. But June overheard him and my dad talking, and she overheard him bragging about that he had put his hands on his wife. June busted through the door. Now, when June busted through the door, the first thing came out of her mouth was, listen here, little... She was like, I don't know who your wife is. She was like, but if I was her, I'll pick up the nearest thing and knock your head off. And this is the way June was all my life. June was always, always, always voiceful. She always wouldn't take no stuff off of nobody at no time, including my dad and his friends. Now, keep in mind, my dad didn't have all bad friends because he had a friend, and his name was Big Willie, and he was total opposite of Willie Divorce. And when Big Willie was there, Willie Divorce wouldn't talk about how he jumped on his wife. But nevertheless, this is what the conversation was on the porch between him and my dad. So when June, but after she had told him off and she went back in the house, she told my mom what he was talking about. So that brought my mom out on the porch and confronted my dad like, don't be listening to what he be talking about because that's stupid. He shouldn't be putting his hand on his wife. He waited good and ready till my mom went back in the door. He asked my dad, how come you don't tune her up? How come you don't put your hands on her? She don't know her place. She always got something to say. She don't know her place. You need to start putting her in her place. So my dad being stupid had been listening to Willie say this to him about my mom. Now, keep in mind, my dad was not innocent in this whole thing. Because my dad had tried it maybe once before. But it didn't end well because my mom and June jumped my dad several times when my dad did something stupid. So this was going to be one of those times that this went on. Now, what I did so far, I used my Juvia's Place eyeshadow primer. And I think this is the color 1. In the shade 1, and it looks like this. I used that and I patted out as best I could underneath my brows. And this is that. Now, see, I kind of sort of straightened them out. But now they're a little better. Now I'm not so paranoid about my brows. But nevertheless, this is what happened. Now, I think the eyeshadow palette that I'm going to use today is going to be my Amrezy palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. So, and it looks like this. Now, keep in mind, I don't use my makeup like that. So this is what the palette on the inside looks like. And I think because of, I'm doing a Shein haul after this video and I'm going to post it and all this other crap. But nevertheless, this is the palette that we're going to use today. I think I want to start off with not putting my finger in my shadow. I didn't put my finger in my shadow again. Hold on. This is wine. I think I'm going to use the color... my first transition color, I think I'm going to use New Yorker. I think I'm going to use New Yorker, and it looks like this is New Yorker. I think this is the shadow that I'm going to start with. I'm going to come back after I apply that first shadow, and we're going to continue on with the story. With Willie Divorce telling my dad this, my dad, being stupid, was going to listen to him. Big Willie had already told my dad previous, like, hey, if I was you, I wouldn't try that with Mary because... you know how your wife is. You know your wife is not going to go for that. Your wife and his wife is nothing like, they're not the same. He kept telling my dad this over and over. But my dad listened to Willie Divorce. He listened to him. So later on that day, my mom had been talking to my dad about what they was going to cook. Was they going to barbecue? And who they was going to invite. Now, keep in mind, my dad didn't too much care for June anyway, because June had a lot to say inside their marriage and outside their marriage, around their marriage, and she didn't give a damn what went on. She had something to say. So the first thing came out of my dad's mouth was, I don't want June here. That wasn't going to work. But anyway, my mom said something to him that really got on his nerve. And when it got on my nerve, my dad hauled off and he hit my mother. Now, when he hit my mother, keep in mind, my mother wasn't one of those that was going to accept it. She wasn't Tina or Turner. She wasn't going for that. It wasn't enough. My mom was getting ready to come after my dad. Trust and believe, my mom, Mary King, was coming after Clyde King because she wasn't going. So as soon as he hit her, she hit him. And when she hit him, not only did she hit him, but she pulled his hair. Because my dad had an afro. When she pulled it, she pulled out some of his hair right here at the top. So therefore, he knew to keep his hands off my mother. But this wasn't the end of him putting his hands on my mother. Listen to me. My mom had to tell June why she had a mark on the side of her face. Child, it was getting ready to go down. Now, keep in mind, Willie Divorce had heard about this story because him and my dad worked at PTI together. And because they worked at PTI together, what was they doing? He was at work bragging about how he had put his hands on my mother. He was at work bragging about how he put his hands on my mother and what happened. What he didn't tell them was how his hair was missing. He said that he was getting something from underneath the fence. The fence caught his hair. He pulled it out, and that's what it was a lie. He was lying, child. My dad was lying. But anywho, this is what happened. So, in through that day, because my mom worked second shift, because my dad worked first shift because of us, my mom, June, was over to my mom's house. When I say my mom told June exactly what had happened, June didn't say one word. She was like, you know what? I am so sick and tired of both of them. And she had kept saying, and my mom had kept telling June, like, June, don't do nothing. She said, I already took care of it. Wait till you see him. And they was laughing about it, but keep in mind, June drank Bombay all the time. She didn't drink it with like a chaser or she didn't mix it. June would drink it in a glass And she kept the glass in her purse along with her cigarettes. So they sit on the porch and they talking about what had happened between my mom and my dad and why did it happen because of Willie divorce. Now, keep in mind, me and Monique sitting there looking at my mom like, you already know what's going to happen. This is going to be good. Monique like, we're going to stand right here. We're going to watch it. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Now, keep in mind, I put the second transition shade that you see, that pink. That pink out of the same palette is Simsa, and it looks like this. This is what you see here. And I put that in there because that the outfit that I want to coordinate with this eyeshadow look is this color pink. So I'm going to do a pink look, whatever the case may be. But this is what happened. So I think out of that same palette, I'm not sure because, now listen here, George. I haven't been using my palette, so I couldn't tell you how this next shade is going to go in there. So I'm going to use this brush, which is a Zoeva brush, a Zoeva A54 brush. And it looks like this. I'm going to take this color, which is Reezy, which is this color pink here, which is this color pink here. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to put it inside of, on my eyelid. Okay, so by my mom telling June what had happened, June can't wait till my dad get off. But because my mom had told the entire story about how he didn't want her at the cookout, June thought about it. So instead of June waiting on my dad to get home, she left before he got there. When I say she left, she knew what time he was getting off. She left. Normally, June would have confronted my dad about what he had did to my mom, but she wanted to wait. The reason why she wanted to wait because she knew that my mom and dad was having to get together later on that day, later on that weekend, and so she was going to wait till then. But Willie divorced couldn't wait. He came home, and so he could witness himself what my dad had did to my mom. Now, keep in mind, my mom ain't no punk bitch. My mom was getting ready to let Willie divorce have it. But Willie divorce didn't know his place, just like he said my mom didn't know her place. He didn't know his. So they walk in the door, my dad and his stupid friend. But when he see my mom, he keep trying to go in front of my mom, is like avoiding him. She not looking directly at him. My dad know he done messed up because at the end of the day, he trying to make up with my mom, but he couldn't because my mom was the type of person, if you pissed her off, she was done with you. She was done with my dad at this point. You know what I'm saying? So she was mad at him. He was trying to make up to her. But Willie divorce was in their business. So he was trying to see my mom's face. So my mom was kind of like avoiding him while she was in the kitchen. But this is what was going on. So he just went and he just came to the doorway. Instead of him just minding his business and keeping his mouth shut, he went to the doorway. He told my mom. He was like, it finally happened. It finally happened. He finally put you in your place. He was like, all women should know their place. This is what he said to my mom. Now, keep in mind, I've told y'all before. Now, if you went back on my stories, you know who Mary King is. You already know how my mom is. So my mom turned to him and she told him. She was like, yeah. She was like, he got it off. She said, yeah, I got a scar. She was like, but did you see his scars? And asked him how the hair is missing on top of his head. Immediately, my dad came out the living room, got Willie divorced, and they both went on the porch. Now, he didn't want to be bothered with what my mom had to say about him, but yet still, he kept antagonizing my mother that she kept telling June what was going on. Now, keep in mind, this was earlier part of the week. The party was on Saturday. So, yeah, my mom was pissed. See this eye? Look how well that eyeshadow is blended. I'm going to show y'all on this eye how I got this look. So, all the rest of that week, my dad let my mom just about buy whatever she wanted when she wanted because he already knew if he hadn't heard anything from June, him being stupid, he thinking that my mom hadn't told June about the story. Now, keep in mind, my mom hadn't even mentioned to him that she had even talked to June. June hadn't even been over the house. My mom had already cued us like, don't even mention that June been over here because it ain't none of his business. Talking about my dad. Now, keep in mind, my dad, he ain't stupid either. My dad trying to figure out what's going on with my mom because my mom is not fussing. And see, if you know my mom, then you already know. For those who know, know. Who don't, don't. I don't know how to tell you about this, but this is how this went. So my mom, this is the black out of that same Amrezy palette. And what I'm doing, I'm just packing it on my outer V. And I'm just packing it. I'm not swirling it. I'm just packing it. The reason why I'm packing it is because I want this eye to look like this eye. And this is how I got it. Now, keep in mind, I just see, you know what? I can't with my life. I can't with my life because I'm so picky when it comes to stuff. But nevertheless, this is how this went. So I'm going to blend this out just a little bit more. I'm going to bring it up, but not all the way up because I don't like my eyeshadow to meet my brow. I just never have been that type of person to like that kind of thing. So keep in mind, June has still been coming over to the house, but nobody saw her. Not Willie divorced, not Big Willie, and definitely not my dad. But keep in mind, June had a plan. June had kept telling me and Monique, like, I cannot wait until this weekend. She said, my revenge is going to come then. Willie divorced had been at work bragging about how my dad jumped on my mom. So my dad had to end up telling my mom what had happened at work because the lady, one of the ladies that worked with my dad, her husband was also friends with my dad. And so she had came over to the house before she could get the chance to tell my mom how they was talking about her at my dad's job. My dad had to end up telling my mom that Willie divorced was the one bragging about what had happened between him and my mom. The reason why she had this mark on her face. Now keep in mind that second shade that I used, which was Simsa, I'm going and I'm marrying those three colors with that color Simsa. See that? See that? But see, it looks like you can see like definition lines. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to keep packing that color on, and then I'm going to take the edge of that brush, just the edge, not the whole brush, and I'm going to start blending those two colors together. And it should come out looking like this opposite eye, because you don't want that black to be so harsh. So what you're going to do is you're going to blend it, and keep blending. You're going to be blending, honey, for the next 45 years. You're going to be blending this eyeshadow because you don't want it to look funny. So you take the edge of that brush and you bring it up. And when you bring it up, you just keep blending. Now, I'm not going to add no more black to this because I don't want the black to be the main attraction. I want the pink to be. So not only am I going to do that eye, but I'm going to continue to keep blending those shades in. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come and do my eyeliner and lashes, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell y'all exactly how this fight happened at my mom and dad's house with Willie divorced and June. Child, it was good. Now that my lashes and liner is on, I'm going to tell you what glue I used for my lashes. I used two. I used this Kiss Professional glue, and it looks like this. And then I used this Huda glue. It looks like this. Now, that Huda is kind of dangerous, guys. Listen, they stuck on there. The reason why I use them glues is because, just like I told y'all, I'm doing another video after this one. So what you see on my face now, I use that Smashbox Primer Water, and it looks like, let me get this. My Smashbox, I got a whole new one, but it looks like this, and I sprayed my face first with this. Then I went right behind it, and I used this Milani, which is the first time I've ever used it, which is this Milani Cannabis Green Goddess primer. And I put that on there. It's kind of moisturizing because the foundation that I'm using today has been known to be like, you know, mattifying, and it don't move. So we want to make sure to protect that. But if you have been with my channel long enough, you know I always use, like, I layer my primers. Reasons being is because I like for my face to sit. I want my face to completely sit. So, nevertheless, hold on one second, girl. Nevertheless, my mom and June had devised this plan. They devised a plan. They both was going to wear the same outfit to the party. Now, my dad had no idea that June and my mom was planning on this. But everybody else do, but they didn't. So, this is this Benefit Pore Professional Matte Rescue. And it looks like this. And I'm putting this on top of that. But I'm going to pat it in. That's just to fill in my pores. And plus to stop in my T-zone for my makeup not to crack and all this old extra stuff. And this and that third. Now keep in mind, everybody knew that how June and my mom was. But they had no idea that my mom had already informed June of what my dad had did. So the party was getting ready to start. Now they cooking. My dad, he got the music on. Willie divorced and dropped off his beer. When he dropped off his beer, he told my dad, he said he didn't want nobody to be drinking his beer. Now, keep in mind, you got to remember the beer because this is how the fight started with the beer. Okay, so my mom and June had been talking to see. June knew how Willie divorce was. Because Willie divorce, he didn't try to hide that he was an asshole. He was just an asshole, a small asshole at that. A tiny, tiny, tiny asshole. But June being the asshole she was, she didn't give a damn. Her revenge was coming. Because first of all, my dad should have never put his hands on my mom. My mom should have never had to wear that damn scar on her face. And yet still, he should have been listening to Willie Divorce. So it was going to be on between Willie Divorce and June. Under my eyes, I use my Morphe concealers. I use this first shade. I put this first shade on first, and then I put the second one just to brighten it underneath my eyes, and I blended that in. And then I went, after that, I used this Clinique Stay Matte Oil-Free foundation in the color, what color is this? 28 Clove, and it looks like this. And this is the foundation that I have on. Actually, this is my exact shade, but because the lighting is all effed up, I ain't gonna worry about it. Because see, y'all gonna see it in a minute after I finish with these lights and stuff like this. And to set my concealer underneath my eyes, I'm using this Kat Von D. I'm using my Kat Von D powder foundation in Tan Deep 190 to set that concealer underneath my eyes, because I like for my eyes to be a little brighter underneath than normal, you know, whatever. Okay, so the night that this stuff started, my mom and June both wore the same kind of jean jumper. Now, keep in mind, if you watched my stories or heard my stories before, you already know my mom and June always dressed alike. Even though they were grown, they still dressed alike when it came to parties and stuff, because that's how June wanted it. And by June being a little older than what my mom was, my mom always took heed to what June said. So, the night that the party started, my dad had made it clear to my mom that he was hoping and praying that June was not invited. My mom still hadn't responded to him because she was going to let it be a surprise that June was going to be there. Nevertheless, June showed up. It wasn't nothing that my dad could have done, because all my aunts and uncles and their significant others was there. And they was also friends with my mom's best friend, June. Because everybody knew my mom and June. Everybody knew my mom and June, because they was always together. Now, keep in mind, by this time, my dad is pissed. You know what I'm saying? But because June know how Willie Divorce is, what do you think June did? She waited good and ready until the party had started, and she seen Big Willie and Willie Divorce and my dad sitting out on the back porch. So she had went in the basement. All the liquor and stuff was already in the basement. June grabbed one of Willie Divorce's beers. The same beers that he told my dad to put up because he didn't want nobody else with drinking his beer, because he was selfish. He was a little man and he was selfish. But nevertheless, June went after the beer first. So, wait a minute. Let me pack this out up here. So, nevertheless, June went after his beer. Not only did she go after his beer, she went right outside to where they was at, but she came out the side door because they were sitting on the back porch. When she came out, she was going to be already in the yard. Now, keep in mind, she had came outside and she told Willie Divorce, she said, hey, motherfucker. She was like, I know that's your beer that's in that refrigerator. She said, that's why I drank one. He turned to my dad and he told my dad, he said, I hope to high heaven she didn't take her little narrow ass in there to mess with my beer. He said, because if she did, he said, I'm going to put my hands on her. This is one time she going to know her place. Now, keep in mind, he was always threatening women, because he was he abused his own wife. But see, June and my mom was different. This is the Fenty bronzer and Mocha Mommy that I'm scoping out my face with. Now, keep in mind, June had already went outside, shoved the beer. June had on an all jean jumper that had like different color textures and stuff in it, like leather patches and other jean color patches in it. June had this on. So my dad told June, he said, you get your little narrow ass in there. He was like, you better not have to mess with his beer. She said, I mess with his beer. She said, not only did I mess with his beer, she said, this is my second one. She said, if you don't believe me, little motherfucker, you go around there and you check. What do you think Willie Divorce did? He went right in that house. Now, keep in mind, June had came outside on the side of the porch. They were sitting on the back porch. But Willie Divorce had headed into my mom and dad's house to go and see had June was telling a lie that she had already touched his beer. But keep in mind, June had went in the house, but this time she went in the house, she took her shoes off. She went to my mom, she told my mom, she said, it's already started. She said, I already told this little motherfucker that I went and I drank his beer. And my dad was already mad because he knew June did, because she came outside bragging about it. So by this time, my mom is outside, she in the house laughing at what was going on between my dad, June, and Willie Divorce now. June came inside, she took her shoes off, and she told my mom, she was like, take your shoes off, Mary. She was like, because this motherfucker getting ready to start a fight with me. My mom told her, she was like, June, I told you not to go out there and start no shit. She was like, I thought we was going to wait. She was like, no, I couldn't wait. She was like, I'm starting shit now. The shit is on. She was like, I'm going to start with him because he should have started with me. She was like, no sooner did I told him that I drank his beer. She was like, he told me that he was going to do me like he do his wife. She said, I can't wait. She took them shoes off and she rolled them bell-bottom pants up. And she headed back outside. But this time when she headed outside, when the divorce came out the side door and she came out the back door, she had to pass my dad and Big Willie in order to see Willie divorce. And this is what happened. This is how it happened. Willie divorce came out my mom and dad's side door. When he came out the side door, he ran into the middle of my mom's and dad's backyard. When he got to our backyard, he was in the middle of the yard hollering. Now, keep in mind, it was a house full of people in the basement. So when they heard Willie divorce hollering, they followed him outside to the backyard. When they followed him to the backyard, Jude had heard him call her about 55 inches. When he called her about 55 inches, he took and he was coming up towards where my dad and his other friend was sitting. When they got ready to sit, Willie divorce all of a sudden said, there that itch is. June came running through our house from the middle of our dining room. She came running through our house, out the back door, down the steps she went. And when I say she took a flying leap on Willie's divorce, she took a flying leap. She took a flying leap and she got on him. When they start connecting, all you can hear is, motherfucker, I'm tired of you. I'm tired of your shit. She got to hit him. He tried to hit her. Now, keep in mind, she had him by a couple of feet. So she was tall. But by her being tall and slim, she had completely wrapped her legs around him and she was taking it to him. Meanwhile, my dad was getting ready to try to get off the porch and tried to break the fight up. But my mom knew that if he had got to June before she did, he was going to take some cheap shots at her because he didn't like June either. So when he leaped forward to try to get Willie divorced and June apart, my mom jumped on my dad's back. And when she jumped on his back, she started hitting him from the back. Now, keep in mind, everybody is watching this. My aunts is watching this. His friends is watching this. Nobody wants to break it up because they already knew something was going on. But when June realized that my dad had came close to where her and Willie divorce was still tied up, she started kicking my dad. When she started kicking my dad, he started trying to go after her. My mom is still stuck on his back. Now, keep in mind, they started. My dad started by listening to Willie divorce. Willie divorce started by getting in my mom and dad's business when it came to their relationship. Now, granted, I'm not the type of person that sit and I'm going to take either side. I took my mom's side. I took their side. Now, keep in mind, what I'm getting ready to do now is I'm getting ready to get this powder, which I think I'm going to use this one. And I'm going to put a little bit on this brush. Now, this is my Sephora Micro Smooth Powder, and it's in the color, what color is this? Fonce Deep, and it looks like this. And this is what I set the rest of my face with. But I'm going to take this brush, and I'm going to go inside of my parts with this brush just to clean up my parts and to make them more defined if I can. If I can't, then you know what? I ain't going to worry about it. But yeah, it's still, the fight was still going on. Now, me and Monique is laughing because if you ever known your parents, like I know my parents was not going to just give up the fight. No, this fight lasted for about 6 minutes. That made my mom's oldest sister, which is the one with the beard, and her younger sister, which is the hillbilly, it made them jump into the fight. Now, keep in mind, their friend that was sitting on the porch, Big Willie, he was always on my mom's side because he is Monique's goddad. But yet still, the fight still broke out. Now, I think that looks pretty good. I'm not going to do any less to this because that's just how it is. Now, I set the rest of my face with this Sephora Micro Smooth Powder. It looks like this. Is like I said, it's in the color Fonce Deep. And then the blush that I used came out of this Makeup Revolution Roxy palette. And I used this one first, and then I used this one because they were pink. Now, what I'm getting ready to do now is I'm getting ready to take this eyeliner pencil because I'm not wearing lipstick today. I'm going to wear gloss. So I'm going to take this black pencil. I'm going to go around my lips just a little bit. Not a lot. Just a little. Because, you know, I want to define her. But see, I think that Willie divorce, I think June didn't like him mainly because of what he was doing to his wife, but mainly because he had my dad coming after my mom behind what his friend had been saying. So nevertheless, this is how my mom and my dad was constantly. The fight between them just wasn't with this fight, honey. It was several fights about them. But if you checked out my channel, this is that Milani. Let me see what color this is. This is that Milani gloss, and it's in the color. What color is this? Rose blush, and this is one we'll use today because I don't want a whole lot of stuff on it. That looks pretty good. I think I like that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, still, I enjoyed this story too. But this is the final look, and I'm gonna spray my face down one more time, and I'm gonna use this one size. What is this? On Till Dawn. It looks like this. I'm gonna use this to lock that makeup in. But this is the final look, boys and girls, and everybody in between. And I hope y'all like it, because I absolutely love it. So like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye. Now this is the final look, and I absolutely love it. All the way down to the blush. Now keep in mind, my mom and my dad fought constantly after this. My dad never let June back in the house, but she still came over, but she just didn't come over when my dad was at home. But honey, listen, like, comment, and subscribe. And I thank y'all for watching and subscribing to my channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.